Story 1. My ex used to constantly tell me that I was too emotional and that I always made a big deal out of nothing. Even when something genuinely hurt me, they said I was overreacting or imagining things. Over time, I started doubting my own feelings and began suppressing them to avoid being called dramatic. Even today, I sometimes struggle to express my emotions because I worry that I am being too much, even when I am just being human. Story 2. They convinced me I was overreacting about them flirting with others. Now I know the difference between intuition and being paranoid. Story 3. I was called delusional so often that I sometimes doubt myself. I will list all the undeniable evidence to believe that something happened to me. It is difficult. Story 4. Made me believe I was too sensitive every time they crossed a line. Now I second-guess my gut even when it is screaming. Story 5. I feel bad if I feel angry, sad, or upset because that makes other people uncomfortable. So I apologize anytime I am not happy. Logically, I know I am not responsible for other people's feelings, but that voice is there. It is a constant battle. Story 6. She left me and our newborn and moved in with her cocaine dealer because she heard I was cheating on her with one of her friends who denied it while they were hanging out at the bar every night. But she is lying, and they were still best friends because it is my fault she cannot be with her baby daughter. Story 7. Not an official ex, but still using the term friends to mean people he was currently having sexual relations with or about to. It is better to be real and say a person I have sexual relations with. Without the sexual part, they would not be considered friends. Story 8. That he did not talk to me or even text me for days at a time was considered normal and just an attention deficit hyperactivity disorder thing. I am glad we broke up and I married my now husband because he also has attention deficit hyperactivity disorder and actually enjoys talking with me and spending time with me. Story 9. Not my ex, but my father used to lose his temper whenever I did a chore or construction task incorrectly. To this day, I still question if I am good enough. I believe he was a big part of my decision to never date. Story 10. She wanted to break up with me because we hadn't had sex in 2 weeks, was the final straw. We had sex 3 days prior, and I had been working and was tired. I lost my temper and screamed at her, saying she was the gaslighter all along after she had called me that for a month or two. Story 11. Not an ex but a friend. We had a mutual friend I was very close to. He told me a pretty gross rumor about the friend, something extremely out of character, and it bothered me. I mentioned it to the friend. He denied it. It made no sense, so it was easy to accept their denial as true. It harmed all friendships involved and had spread to other people. It impacted the mutual friend's reputation. The person who told me the rumor continued to hang out with both of us. When I was alone with them, I asked why they continued to hang out with the mutual friend if they believed the rumor. They said, "I don't know what you were talking about." They denied even knowing the rumor beyond telling it to me and others. It took me a long time to understand they were gaslighting me. I could not grasp why they would make a big deal about something, harm a friend's reputation, and later pretend to me it never happened. Story 12. That she never attacked me in my sleep. Something she did for 10 years, always with an excuse. Sometimes it was total denial, like I dreamed it or something. Sometimes she blamed my snoring. Okay, but just gently wake me up. You don't need to kick me or drop all your weight on the bed from a standing position. Sometimes she would attack me not by doing something startling or loud, but by performing fellatio, which I asked her not to do to wake me up, and she always had an excuse. This was also the only way she ever initiated any form of physical contact. It was not intimacy, it was not sex, it was abuse. I told her, "Please wake me first, and please don't wake me after I have gone to sleep in any way other than gently shaking my shoulder." Not once did she ever wake me the way I asked. Not a single time. I developed terrible migraines, which my neurologist identified as caused by sleep disruption. I had never talked about my sleep disruptions with him or correlated them with the things in my head. But as soon as my doctor said it, I was like, "Oh yeah, I know what is causing my sleep disruptions." I went home and told my wife she absolutely cannot wake me up anymore for any reason. She said, "Oh yeah, sure, not a problem. And it was another year of this before it finally dawned on me that she was doing this on purpose with the direct intention of causing me harm, and that she actually hates me. I sort of lost my mind for a bit after that and have been trying to put the pieces of my life back together. But my kids hate me. I have been unemployed for almost 5 years, and I am trying to get back into the workforce, but it's proving hard with everything else complicating things. My ex-wife denies ever doing any of this and says I am totally delusional. For my part, therapy has helped a lot, and I don't have night terrors anymore, but I am painfully aware of how dysfunctional I am overall in the wake of the horror that was my previous marriage. It's rough. Story 13. It's crazy how someone can make you feel like your completely normal reactions are the problem. It took me years to realize that I wasn't too much. I was just with someone who wasn't giving enough. Story 14. Walking away from me while I am mid-sentence to talk to another girl probably is not a symptom of attention deficit hyperactivity disorder. Story 15. This woman I talked to for a summer fake stage for cancer. I was in her state and town for work, and we locked eyes at a Target store. I didn't believe her at first, but it is still upsetting that someone would do that. Story 16. She was on weight loss drugs, basically legal speed, and she loved to argue. It was like living with a lawyer whose mind moved at lightning speed. She could spin anything and everything in any situation to make me look bad. I still get nervous about conflict in relationships, even completely minor things like broccoli or a salad as a side dish for dinner. Story 17. She convinced me that I was a horribly confrontational and rude person, and that it was better for me not to express my beliefs or opinions or even react to her family's. For larger context, the opinions that made me rude and confrontational were that I was an open advocate for worker rights and wage reform and was a vocal ally to the lesbian, gay, bisexual, transgender, queer community when confronted. Apparently, allowing any expression or even reaction of my beliefs was me purposefully trying to start something with her family, whom she would always support, not inherently in beliefs but in that they should be the ones defended. This was after years of dating. Things that qualified as me being a confrontational jerk, looking to start something included, ever commenting on anything her family shared on social media that wasn't completely deferential agreement with them, making any social media post or personal statement that expressed my beliefs, although her mother was never a problem for sharing hate speech, commenting on news articles in person anywhere near her family, discussing any social plans with friends that were more openly left-leaning and politically active, discussing any social plans involving public events like pride festivals or even music concerts for what they considered overly liberal performers, ever expressing written, spoken, or even general body language dislike of Donald Trump and far-right politics. Story 18. Gaslight me into believing it was my fault alone that things fell apart when they made no effort to mend the relationship and disregarded and criticized my efforts to repair it. They managed to blame me solely in every argument. They made me apologize for things I did not do and then used the apology against me. Story 19. I was not jealous and was very cool with my ex hanging out with male friends. I realized I can't stop her from cheating on me if she wanted to. She spent 8 months telling me this guy fit her exact type and that spending 6 hours a night gaming with him every night was just random. She didn't even like him. He was actually a friend of mine as well, and we all got along really well. One night, she tried to convince me he was crazy and that we should both block him. I assumed she was trying to prevent him from telling me they were cheating or something. Either way, she dumped me with some lame excuse that I didn't believe, but I obviously wasn't going to fight it. Then I found out they were together a few days later. I'm happy for them. She'll cheat on him too. I'm not concerned. I have my own stuff to worry about. Absolutely insane person, though. Good luck to that guy. Story 20. He said I was being crazy and emotional for crying when he was physically violent toward me and others. Story 21. When she was willing to give me the time of day, it was all about telling stories of her past or explaining who she is. Anytime I expressed myself, it was, "That's not you." If I showed any knowledge of her, she would act like she suddenly suspected me to be a government spy. No, I know this stuff because you have told me 1,000 times. Story 22. Calling me overweight when I was at a normal weight. I only realized this years later by looking at old photos and thinking, Wait, wasn't I supposed to be overweight back then? Story 23. I needed to lose weight. I actually needed to gain weight. I am a man. It took time to understand this for myself because these issues can be very socially influenced. Story 24. They managed to convince me that I was in the wrong for setting reasonable boundaries and that if I loved them, I would let them do the things that were bothering me. Some of those boundaries were that I was not okay with her hanging off other guys at bars and similar environments. I was not okay with her hitting me, and I was not all right with her getting high and starting fights that I had to step into to protect her because she enjoyed watching me fight. To this day, I struggle to set healthy boundaries because it still kind of feels like I am being unfair. Story 25. Repeatedly telling me that whenever I expressed my needs, it was unnecessary conflict. Claiming that wanting to be romanced is a sign of a lack of confidence. The confidence problem was staying for so long. Not what I need. Story 26. I was told that I was a horrible and manipulative person. I was gaslit for years, made to believe I was to blame for all our issues while they positioned themselves as the victim. They would make plans with me and then cancel at the last minute. When I got upset, they blamed me and made excuses. In the end, after we broke up, they claimed we were never in a real relationship, despite making plans to move in together. I was literally ready to give up my apartment after we had gone apartment hunting together. Story 27. I do not know if this falls into gaslighting, but since it is the 10-year anniversary of our breakup, I will share. During our final breakup, she briefly mentioned that, 1. I was one of the few people who gave her a sense of what a normal life feels like. She acted only in ways that would make me happy, not showing her true, authentic self. Consequently, we never really had much in common to begin with to have a good relationship. From this, feelings of low self-esteem and insecurities were born that still make me question how I approach talking to women and second-guess most interactions when trying to enter a relationship. It has improved over the years, but when I get fairly close with people or go on more than one date, I still think back to that and hesitate. Story 28. That everything was my fault. She did something to make me mad. I'm the asshole for being angry. Antidepressants causing bedroom problems, a very common and well-known side effect. She's upset at me and takes it as a personal insult, as if I wasn't feeling bad enough already. Situations where either she was at fault or it was nobody's fault would always get twisted into me being the bad guy. The result? I basically never tell people when I'm unhappy about something. I just deal with it and move on as best I can because it feels like the safer option. I also experience extreme anxiety over doing anything that might upset someone if I get it wrong. This has led to panic attacks just from having to go to work or take my kids to activities because all I can think is someone will be upset with me if I'm late or make a mistake. I could write a lot more about how troubled I was coming out of that marriage, but that would just be ranting at this point. Story 29. When I called him out for his bad behavior, he said I needed someone perfect. Years after breaking up, this rings in my head whenever I call out bad behavior or establish a boundary with someone. I hate that it still gets to me sometimes. Story 30. There was never a good time or a good way to have a difficult conversation. He always had something going on that I was trying to ruin like I always do. Now I constantly overanalyze everything I say, how I say it, when I bring it up, what mood the other person is in, and how to navigate that. I can't help it at this point. It's even more frustrating when he clearly did not care about any of that with me or anyone else. It's not about receiving any respect. It's just trying to have the best possible odds of being heard and understood. It may seem pathetic, but therapy is worth it. Story 31. That I wasn't affectionate enough. Then I recall the countless times, almost daily, she'd close the door to the bedroom and get upset if I went in because she was busy with work. She would get angry at me for being in the kitchen when she was there, get upset when I admired her when she was naked, shoo me away when I wanted to watch a movie or television show with her, and refuse to let me accompany her to work functions where her colleagues brought their partners. Yes, I suppose I was entirely at fault for giving her the space she demanded. Story 32. That spousal rape was not an actual thing, and it was my duty to bear children, which he was going to have no matter what, even if it killed me to be a broodmare. It almost did. I got sterilized because the high-risk pregnancy specialist said I would not survive another pregnancy. So he got his mistress pregnant twice. I finally left. He also had me convinced I was worthless and would never amount to anything and that I would not be able to make it on my own without him. Eventually, I found the courage to leave. Story 33. I was thinking about how my stepmother made me feel vain for looking in the mirror and terrible for doing stupid things teenagers and 20-year-olds do, like paying bills late. I struggle with many self-esteem issues because of her. She is grown and a decent person, but stepmothers in the 1980s, 1990s, and even early 2000s were different. Story 34. God. So many things. I am a narcissist and abusive. He never loved me. I was literally trying to kill him. The overall effect of that constant self-doubt has turned me into a massive overthinker today. It has been almost 2 years since he died, and I am still trying to unlearn it all. Story 35. Love bombed me and convinced me that I was being unreasonable for having normal boundaries and a reasonable timeline for how a relationship develops. Story 36. One of my former girlfriends caused me a lot of performance anxiety during sex because I could never make her orgasm. She told me I did not know what I was doing, and for a while I believed it. However, after being with other partners, I learned that I can make women orgasm. She was just unusually hard to please. Still, her words stuck with me. Even now, it affects my confidence. I find it hard to finish unless my partner does first. Story 37. When we were in counseling before therapy, she insisted that I never tried to work on our relationship. It was not until about a year after we divorced that I realized she was the one who never tried. She also told our therapist that one day I came home from work and yelled at her because dinner was not ready, which was completely untrue because I have never done that, nor would I. Story 38. I am still sorting out issues from 20 years ago. He is excellent. The darkest and grimiest of the best. Satan is my nickname for him. Story 39. I speak English as my second language and he was British. It was not always easy for me to understand his accent, so I repeated what he said to make sure I understood. He did not like that and took it as me trying to challenge him, which made him angry. I have now stopped asking questions because I constantly think people do not like me or will get angry if I ask. Also, he convinced me that his cheating was not a big deal. Story 40. Made me feel comfortable sharing my feelings when she actually just used the deep stuff I had told her to get back at me. Imagine feeling so comfortable around someone that you open up about how you view your relationship with your dad and how you have never felt close to him or that he really loved you. She called him and told him what I said. She told him I hated him and that I said he was a bad dad. Funny though, because now we are not like before, but we do get along well and I feel like he cares more. So, although she tried to ruin the relationship, she actually made it better. Story 41. We had a huge fight before my birthday. On my birthday, of course, he ignored me. The next day, he asked if I had fun and drank with my girlfriends. When I said yes, he said that I am happier with my friends than with him. Like what? I kept texting you and you ignored me. Anyway, I broke up with him after that. Story 42. I still tend to show my fiancée every chat I have with other women. She can even unlock my phone whenever she likes, even though they are all friends with both of us. Funny enough, I never cheated, but my ex did. Yes, the unlocking was my decision early in our relationship because I did not want the same arguments I had with my ex. However, my fiancée rarely uses my phone, only for Google, Calculator, and similar apps when her phone is in a different room. Story 43. My ex lived about 35 minutes away from me and kept referring to our relationship as a long-distance one. This was before I started driving. I got my driver's license well into adulthood. I have obsessive-compulsive disorder and high anxiety involving driving. Anyway, my current girlfriend is from the same area. One day, she drove to my house, where I kept apologizing for her long journey, and she finally said, "Dude, what are you talking about? It's not a big deal at all. That's not even half of it." I recently had to drive in heavy traffic to that area for work, which was difficult. The entire time, as someone with high anxiety, I kept thinking, this isn't even an hour-long drive. I spent years being told I was an inconvenience because of my obsessive-compulsive disorder, being told that I relied too heavily on people around me, and that I was useless and had no purpose in a relationship. I actively need reassurance from my girlfriend, only to apologize again because it was never her lack of character that put her in a position to reassure me. To this day, if I have to ask for help, assistance, or even a ride due to intoxication, car troubles, etc., I hear her voice ripping into me. That isn't fair or right because she was wrong and genuinely not a good person. Story 44. I had a lot of jealousy issues in the past. I got heartbroken a few times and had problems trusting people in relationships. I found a new girlfriend who wanted to take guitar lessons with a guy, which was an instant red flag. The guy was not very attractive. She herself said, "Never in my life with that guy. Are you insane?" And that I desperately needed to work on my jealousy and trust issues. So, she cheated on me with that guy, and I was right to be mistrustful of that situation all along. Story 45. If I asked for something more than twice, no matter how far apart in time, I was nagging. We are talking about things like, "Please do not ball up your socks when you take them off," or "Trash pickup is tomorrow," or reminders for things scheduled by or for his family. Story 46. That I had an interest in her 18-year-old daughter whom I never met and who lived in a state 2,000 miles from me. Story 47. I came home earlier than planned. When I entered, I found her sleeping with someone else. She managed to convince our acquaintances, my friends, her family, and my family that I was a bad partner and that she had no other choice but to cheat. It took me several years and the love of my life to understand that I was not to blame for my partner cheating on me. Story 48. My ex swore I had a bad memory whenever he changed the story, even when I knew I was right. Now I doubt myself constantly, even with proof in front of me. Story 49. She told me many times that I do not have fun at parties or social gatherings, so I started feeling very depressed at those events. Now I never even go out. Story 50. Well, this is embarrassing to admit. I have been spreading evil powers around me. The reason she was sick was because of me and my dark influence. We had been involved in a cult then, but I didn't realize it until later. That was really why she had to break up with me, because being around me was dangerous and detrimental to her health. The guys at church told her so, especially one of the guys who had his eyes on her and later became her new boyfriend. When she broke up with me, she told me he had nightmares where I glared at him with fiery red eyes and snakes tried to bite his ankles. Talking about it just now sounds insane, but yes, it took me years to accept that she was talking nonsense that had been passed down to her from other jerks. God had nothing to do with it. It was just a bunch of hornballs who wanted to be with her, and she was too gullible, so of course she believed it. Although I guess our relationship was not a match made in heaven, it wasn't like I was the greatest man alive. I am still struggling to shake off the feeling that I would be a terrible person who hurts those I love. Just by being around my friends and family, not doing anything in particular, I feel like I am somehow causing them pain. Story 51. When we were going through our divorce after 21 years of marriage, he told me that I was and always had been a terrible wife. Story 52. My ex made me believe that every other guy is trying to get in my pants, and if I get too friendly with them, they might get the wrong idea. It haunts me to this day. Story 53. I am a picky eater, which is why she never helped with anything food-related. I would come back from 10-hour shifts at a very physically active and dangerous job, and she would be in bed on her phone after having gotten home 3 hours earlier. I would get home exhausted and disgusted, and she would ask me what was for dinner, expecting me to cook or order out because she knows how picky I am. I do not like curry or Indian food. That is it. Where we lived, not liking that kind of food was not a big deal because there were only 2 Indian restaurants out of hundreds. Story 54. I lost over 40 pounds in 1 year and felt really good about myself. She was supposed to start the weight loss journey with me. This was not me pushing. She was the one who got me to sign up for the gym. She never lost any weight because she was not committed to anything that required hard work. She told me it was my fault. My success had made her lose confidence and made it hard for her to even try. I was meal prepping for both of us, but she was adding extra. I put together workout plans for us to do together, but she was too tired from work. I was searching for hikes for us to do together on the weekend, but she said she was going to afternoon tea with her sister. She said it was my fault. Story 55. She said I was too possessive, insecure, and imagining things when she insisted the man was just a business contact. Besides, she said he was much older than me and overweight. They are now married. Story 56. She would take mental health days where she would text me but not see me. Those were the days she cheated on me with our coworker. The day she revealed it to me, I had already put it together, and a week and a half later, they moved out of state together. Story 57. She said I am not emotionally vulnerable enough and we had no emotional connection. I go to therapy every week, am a total softie, and am not afraid of deep conversations, but apparently there is no possibility of connection with me. It was devastating and made me think I was broken in some way. It was just her projecting her own fear. Story 58. She told me I had already left her when she left me. I didn't leave anyone. We were going through a rough patch mainly because I had some issues outside of the relationship. All I wanted was to get back on my feet to treat her better and help my mother, who was financially struggling after the death of my father. She said it was my fault she hadn't graduated yet when I suggested not meeting for a bit on weekends so she could focus on studying for her last exam, which she was struggling to pass. Story 59. He faked an eating disorder but then manipulated me into thinking he never even mentioned it. He also faked many disorders and vented frequently, which has led me to believe I cannot open up to my current partner or friends without being seen as seeking attention. Story 60. I don't show enough love, and I am emotionally unavailable and not emotionally mature. Turns out everything is fine with me, but not so much with her. Story 61. She basically just used me to get what she wanted and never showed any desire toward me herself. It messed me up for a long time, making me think that all women were like that or that I was incapable of being desired. I am better now, but sometimes, in bad moments, it still affects me. Story 62. Finding out that I was used for sex for years. He said, "Believe what you want." After I confronted him and told him what I heard. It makes me paranoid about being with someone and giving up so many things just to be used in the end. Hey, that's my fault for being so trusting and in love. What really upsets me is the reason why I would never do that to anyone. It doesn't sit well with me. I don't understand how someone could do that to a person who deeply loves them. Story 63. I was the love of her life. She is a functioning alcoholic and was cheating on her boyfriend with me. Story 64. He manipulated me over crying because I had a rough day at work. He told me I was crying on purpose to make him feel bad. Please, console me. Story 65. She, as a German, did not know what the Confederate flag meant and liked it because she was in graphic design and it looked nice. She also accused me of cheating too often or would try to end arguments by saying, "Oh, you think I am cheating? I will just delete the website, app, or whatever profile so I cannot talk to anyone. How would you like that?" Which was exaggerated. I am convinced she cheated at some point because of how dramatic she was about that. Cannot prove it, though. Story 66. It's hard to explain because it was so long ago. She used to make subtly insulting and mean comments about my art at a time when I was still very self-conscious about myself and my art, and she most definitely knew it. Many comments were like, "waste of time." I have been in a much more supportive and healthy relationship since then, and it has been many years. Story 67. When I finally opened up to her about my trauma, she said, "Why does it even matter? This woman was a childhood victim like me, so I still cannot believe that was her reaction. Even worse, I stayed with her after that, and then she cheated. Now, when I'm having bad days or dark thoughts, I always hear her voice saying, 'Why does it even matter?' It disgusts me and makes me want to curl into a ball and cry sometimes." Story 68. Not my ex, but my ex-friend. I have always been the kind of person who does not judge others by their past behavior or how they treat others. She hated that because I stayed friends with many of her enemies. She told me that by behaving this way, I would end up alone and that she was saying this to protect me. To this day, I still question if I am really a bad person. Then I see her spending all her time alone, and the uncertainty goes away. Story 69. I was repeatedly told I was not a victim of abuse and that she was the actual victim when she was the one drinking every night, not communicating, and treating me like garbage. I am in an incredible relationship now, but still struggle to stand up for myself out of fear of an overreaction and being demeaned again. Story 70. I have paranoid schizoaffective disorder. This includes auditory and visual hallucinations and susceptibility to delusions. I am also autistic, specifically autism spectrum disorder, which was previously classified as Asperger's syndrome. Because of this, I tend to interpret social interactions differently. This sometimes makes my grasp on reality tenuous. I am aware of this and have some knowledge of the psychology of memories and perceptions, such as false memories and why witness statements can be problematic. While not at a professional level, my understanding is deeper than that of the average person. This makes me particularly susceptible to gaslighting of certain kinds. My ex-wife gaslit me extensively. I have trouble trusting my memory of events and conversations to this day because of it. I sometimes question whether traumatic events I have lived through actually happened, whether loved ones I have lost ever existed, and, even if they did, whether our connection was what I remember it being. She also made me feel that any attempt at vulnerability would inevitably be used against me. She instilled a belief that I am fundamentally without value to people unless I am actively providing something. Even my best efforts seemed futile if I had needs or strong feelings about something they did or wanted, essentially if I came into conflict with them in any way. This has led to significantly more anger issues, a problem I had been making powerful progress in before I met her. I have been in therapy for several years now trying to address this, but it is difficult, and I feel I may never fully recover despite my best efforts. Story 71. He convinced me I was too emotional every time I brought up something that hurt me. Eventually, I stopped trusting my own feelings. Even now, I second-guess whether I am overreacting when I stand up for myself. Story 72. I should get over what his female best friend said to me and about me. She told me that I was just a backup plan and that I should be careful. She spoke badly about me to my ex, saying she did not like me and that I was a horrible person, and tried to break us up. Story 73. He rushed me into buying Pokemon Scarlet and Violet by asking which one I wanted so he could buy the other. A game he knew I was buying as an early Christmas present right before my own birthday for us to play together. I reminded him I was going to buy them, and he whined about waiting. I told him I was not going to make him wait. When we broke up shortly after, he told me my pushy nature was not enjoyable, claiming that he was not going to play Pokemon Scarlet and Violet, but I made him. It is absolutely the most unreasonable thing he gaslit me about, but it sticks with me. Maybe because the game was as much a letdown as the nearly decade-long relationship. Story 74. It is acceptable for a 40-year-old man to look at a young woman in a respectful manner. People who harm children should go to prison to ensure a safer society. Story 75. She lost herself in the process because of me. Her lack of motivation is not my fault. She loved working out, then she stopped. I always ask her to work out with me, but she would rather be in bed. To put this on me and then say it wasn't me and that I was putting words in her mouth is confusing. Sometimes I wonder if I am too much for some people, and it bothers me. Story 76. That being cheated on was my fault, that having feelings made me less of a man, that I should have sex with her whenever she wanted even if I did not, that having friends and doing things with them was neglecting her because she did not have any. Boy, do I know how to pick them. Story 77. He is just a friend. Being lied to like that by someone who was supposed to be with you no matter what stings harder than anyone could have prepared me for. Story 78. I question a lot if I were just a safe choice and not really someone he would choose if I were lined up among others. Until someone who barely likes people came along, looked at me, and talked to me like I am the prettiest girl he has ever seen. Of course, it is possibly an exaggeration, but the fact that some stranger could say something my partner could not makes you think twice. Story 79. Me. I feel like your feelings for me are uncertain, and I want to know how you are feeling so I can understand how to approach you in the future. Him. Your feelings are uncertain. Story 80. That I was the one not admitting to their problems even when I was. If I pointed out something she did that upset or annoyed me, I was met with, "Oh my God, If you were so unhappy, why even be with me? And showed no sign of wanting to change. Meanwhile, she would happily say, "Oh my God, you did this and this. Do you realize how upset I am? Thanks a bunch for sticking around till the end of the video. Remember to subscribe, and until next time, stay awesome and goodbye."